there's Eileen Helsby was in it.
Eileen, that's right. That I kept in touch with her and the young boy.
Brian Wright.
Brian.
Oh, well, they're both still around.
Yeah.
Eileen is in America.
Oh, God, you're very good, aren't you? You know all this.
Brian became a writer and is in Nottingham. We've not met. I wrote to him.
Right.
He wrote back.
Yeah, tell him you know Ginger.
Well, I will, because he actually said, I can't do the interview now because I'm in a project, but maybe some other time. And that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So
we forget, you see, don't we?
Well, he was quite difficult to find because he didn't carry on acting.
No.
She
Purvis, of course.
She went to America, Eileen, and lives next door to a friend of mine. Is a carer for an actor called John Craig. John Craig, he's called, and who lives next door to Eileen Helsby's sister. Whenever Eileen Helsby comes to the UK, she visits, and so they.
Oh, I see. So they keep in touch.
But she didn't want to be interviewed. But I was there the other day because John Craig worked with John Robinson, who played Quatermass. So I was interviewing him.
Did you try Jackie Lane?
Yes, I've.
She's very not. I don't want to be associated, isn't she? Out of the blue, they asked me to go to one of these things where you sign things, and it was only down the road.
Was it Phantom Films, Chiswick, or
no.
Planet
They've just asked me to do something. But this was Barking.
Okay.
I think they've only ever done it once, and they must have found out I was local or something. Anyway, I went down, and she was on it, and then this other girl she'd just come out of that one with all those witches.
Oh yes.
She was fine. She was only a young girl, and we got on very. But Jackie was very. I mean, we said hello, but she was terribly quiet. But she did her job very well. She signed her things and was chatty when people came up, and we signed all these photographs and stuff. Actually, I tell you what. Thinking about this, which I've not done for a long time, going back this far. I mean, like to one of my first ever jobs, I realised because as an actor, you're always insecure, aren't you? About can I really do it?
Yeah.
And I thought I must have been very good.
To still be doing.
Well, I don't do it now because I only want to do telly. I don't do anything on the stage. But I had an extraordinarily long, varied and career. I mean, I did 300 plays over 350 plays on stage, 200 tellies. I became a star in the 70s. I've done all the stuff, plays and radio. I've written. I've had things written. And you thought I must have been all right for people to use that much.
Well, look, what I found with this, and you're about the 230th person I've interviewed, is that largely the acting profession doesn't end well because even if you have a great success, there's always
the dead part. Oh yes.
And I think if you give up on the job rather than the job giving up on you,
is a good thing.
You've won.
Well, I gave up the job in 19 whatever. I was the Millennium Dame. That was my last real stage. I've done bits of stage for charity since then and stuff, you know. But that was, and I thought, no, I've done it now. I really, really don't want to do it anymore. During that show, everybody got pneumonia, pleurisy, apart from me. It was such a hardy old fucker. There was one point I was singing more or less the whole score on my own. I remember doing the finale, and I said, if you can't do it, just nod and I'll do your line. And they were all going... It was a great job, I'll never forget. It was for Stratford East, but Stratford was dark at the time. They were refurbishing it. And it was there, and I thought, no, I've done it now. And I just got together with my mate, my boyfriend Neil, or not just together, but I thought my granddaughters were growing up, and my daughters and son were getting on. I thought I don't need this now. No. I don't really want to do it.
No.
So I thought stop it then. Just do telly and film. So that's what I put myself up for. But now I'm in that between stage. You can have this while I'm getting at you.
Oh, bless you.
There you are.
So what I do is I'll do a brief introduction. I'll get you to introduce yourself. And then we'll just go for it.
And you just ask me questions and I'll reply. And do tell me to shut up because I
not
do
at all.
deviate.
Well,
as you can gather, I drift away.
I can edit it later, but I have to say
you can edit it later.
What we've done already is brilliant because I think the less you hear of me, the better. Well, we're in the much-visited CAA, top secret location that only actors can come into. Sorry, everybody. And my latest victim was in Doctor Who many, many years ago, so I'm going to ask him to introduce himself and tell us why I'm talking to him about Doctor Who.
Hello, my name's John Halstead, and I was in Doctor Who, I think it was in 1966 or 65. Bill Hartnell was the Doctor then, and Peter Purvis was the boy, and Dodo was played by, who's that girl I've just mentioned?
Jackie Lane.
And that was it, and I was in that, and I did the voices of the Monoids. The Monoids were in 4 episodes. It was called The Ark, and they were in 4 episodes. In the first 2, they could speak, and in the second 2, it had gone on 700 years, and I think the planet had been taken over by them, but they'd lost their voice. So the actors then couldn't speak because they had an eye in the middle of their forehead, which was in fact their mouth, due to the I can't gesture because it's radio. I remember telling that to a mime artist I did an interview with. And so they had to have this eye in their mouth that they could move with their tongue. So they couldn't speak. They had this terrible little box round their neck that was supposed to be their speaker. And myself and Roy Skelton were, I think he was the voice of Monoid 1 and 3, and I was the voice of Monoid 2 and 4. And then we just did that in the corner while they played around. It was a wonderful experience because it was my first real sort of work on television. Previous to that, I'd just done a glorified walk-on in Z-Cars, which was live. I think it's the only live telly, oh no, maybe not, I'd done with Bernard Archer, who was the guest star, who was lovely and very, very kind to me. I mean, they all were in a certain way, but I won't go into that. I was very young and pretty in those days. And so I did that, but I was supposed to be an assistant superintendent. And of course, even now, I'm pushing 106 and I still look about 60, and I looked terribly young in those days, and I kept rushing back to the makeup room while the director was saying try and make him look older. So they tried, and eventually they tried to shoot me out as much as they could, but of course I was part of this entourage, so I was just off at the end and you just see parts of my face. I didn't care. I got the money and my equity card out of it. So that was my first telly, and my next one was Doctor Who.
Well, you're not in camera at all.
I was. Oh yes, I was. Oh yeah. No, I didn't have any lines. I just
I mean in Doctor Who.
Oh no, I wasn't in camera. No, we just did voice. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, those other men were in camera, not speaking with their eyes in their mouth.
Yeah.
So we just sat in a corner and Rabbitin read the lines.
So had you any experience of doing just voice? I'm curious because Roy Skelton obviously went on to be Mr. Voices.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And so had that background. So I'm wondering how you got lumped in.
No, I don't know. I got a call and said, would you do this? And I thought, oh yes, it's a telly, and I'll get down there, and would you? And I went down there, and they liked it, and that was it. They never asked me back, the bastards.
No.
So there you are. But then again, I'd gone on to other things by then, you know. So, or maybe they thought it was a load of rubbish. I don't know.
Well, I suppose you didn't time it very well in that it was the director's...
It was his last episode, Michael Emerson, bless his little... And he was lovely. And they were all nice. Bill Hartnell was terribly serious. And of course, I'm a naughty boy. I really am a very naughty boy on set. No, I am. It's no good smiling, Toby. I am dreadful. I behave quite badly. And I think I go to play. You see, I think acting is about playing. So I go to play, and until they say action, I play. And then I play at being very disciplined and very real about as to what I'm doing. So Bill Hartnell did think I was a bit too off the... because I would take the piss a bit, you know what I mean? But he was all right. I think he understood. But of course he was getting on a bit then and was finding it difficult to remember his lines and stuff. And of course I was a young, arrogant little tart and didn't, realise that now. And now I would find it difficult. No, I probably wouldn't, but you know what I mean? I didn't realise that what 60-odd was with all the pressure. I mean, I did find out later when I went into a series and became one of the leading actors in that for a while in the 70s. So that was it. But I do remember it was just so exotic, really, Doctor Who. It was just wonderful. I mean, and now when I see it, I mean, I love David Tennant. I mean, as a person and as an actor, I just think he's wonderful. But seeing what they've done to that TARDIS now as opposed to what it was, a few plates and a few whatever, and a few knobs hanging around on there, you think, oh, God, it's come on. Really. But I still watch it.
Yeah.
I've always watched it, in fact, or from then when I was a kid, and because I had kids then, and they watched it, and I'm not sure my granddaughters watch it. They're all tarts and they do other things. I don't think they watched it. I've never actually asked them.
Oh, it got big with girls for a while.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, certainly in the David Tennant era, and Matt Smith, who were lovely. Yeah. So there we are. That's my Doctor Who experience. Any other questions?
Well, tell me about you, Johnson. What had got you to this point? Was it always going to be a life of an actor for you?
Yes, I was abandoned as a child by a woman I don't know and I can't trace. My birth certificate's all lies. I think she may have been an actress. She may have been of royal blood. I don't know. Or she may have just been a waitress. With the family I was adopted into, they're very sort of lower working class, you know what I mean? Hello, Johnny, all right, son. Then I was brought up in the East End of London. But looking at my hands, you can see these very long, creative, artistic hands. These have never done a hard day's work, where these come from, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From my history, they've not had to slog. Whereas my family, which when I mention family, it's all to do with my foster family, although I was never adopted because they were too young. But they're all, you know, nice, gritty, and, you know, all my sisters and my brother, they're all, you know, grit, and whereas I'm very and my children now and my granddaughters have got these very long, thin, wayward ways with them, although they're all putting on a bit of weight now, they're that age, you know what I mean? I don't let them hear that. So then, where was I at? I was doing, my life. And then I always knew that I wanted to be an actor. I had to sing Good King Wenceslas at school during a Christmas show when I was about 6. And I suddenly thought, there was an identity there, because I have no idea who I was or where still. And and I thought, yes, I'd like to do this. And when I went into national service, I signed on for an extra year to actually get more money, so that when I came out of the forces, I'd have enough money to go to RADA, which is the only drama school I'd ever heard of in those days. It was the only one that people knew. Did my extra year there, and then towards the end of the extra year, I got lung trouble. My lungs kept collapsing, which was a spontaneous pneumothorax. So I had to come out. I was invalided out, and then of course you can't go into the theatre if you're ill. You know, there's 3 things you can't be. What are they in the theatre?
Ill, often dead.
Ill, late or dead. That's right. Nearly there. So there you are. I thought, well, I couldn't do that. And then I had my lungs mended slowly. And then when the second one happened, I'd gone over to see some friends in Forest Gate, and they were advertising this new drama school, which was based on Joan Littlewood's work at the Theatre Royal Stratford East, I'd seen some of her plays there. Oh, What a Lovely War and all that, and many other plays there, because it was local, and my wife and I used to go. And I was walking down, recuperating in fact, walking down Upton Lane in Forest Gate, and everywhere I went, people say, "Hey, have you read in the Stratford," which was the Stratford Express, "that they're looking for mad, exotic actors who want to train at this new school? You're mad and exotic and vulgar. Why don't you apply?" So, and then that happened about 4 or 5 times, because I was rather mad and exotic in those days, and I'm rather straight and really nice. So eventually, after I'd been to see my mates around there, and I was stopped at a greengrocer's called, Bill and Dot Dunn, they were mates, and they said, "Have you rung?" I said, "No." And they said, "Well, come in here, have a free call." I think it was 4p in those days, you know, and they had a phone out the back. So I rang Stratford East and spoke to a lady called Carol Murphy, who said I'd have to go and audition. I did a sort of posh voice, thinking I was going to be a nice actor. And meantime, the Alsatian dog was mounting me up the back passage, in her back passage, not mine. So, although I did tell that story to her. And then she said I had to send 10 shillings for an audition and all that. And what was it? There was a word she used. Can't remember what that was. And then I had to go and see, in a couple of weeks' time and get an audition. Maggie Berry, who was the wife of John Berry, the designer there, who'd been one of Joan's actors, and they've just decided to start this school. Harry Corbett and Brian Murphy, Eutha Joyce, Glyn Melvin, John Berry, Maggie Berry. They put a few bob together to start the school, and Jean Newlove was another of her. She was her movement lady. I went and auditioned with Maggie. I was very nervous, and then she said, "Can you do improvisation?" I didn't know what that was. And she said, "Where you make things up in your own words." And I'd done that at school with a nice drama teacher called Miss Fagg, would you believe? So I said, "Oh yeah, I can do that." So I did a bit on my own, and then she called a girl who was in the first year called Anne Mitchell, who's now just lovely. And she came in and we did some improvisation together. And then she said to me, "I'd like to have you." And that was just after that. She said, "I'd like you to come. Can you get a grant, or I can give you a scholarship?" I said, "What's a grant?" She said, "Well, you apply to the local council, and they'll pay you the fees here, which were about, I can't remember what it was, 500 or 1,000 for the term, or I don't think it was that much. And then they'll give you money to live on." So I thought, oh, well, then I applied to Essex County Council. I had to go there for the whole day and write things and do things and act things and criticise things. And then they said they'd give me a grant. So that meant the scholarship that I would have got, Maggie could give to somebody else. Maggie Berry was the principal. So I started at E15 and stayed there it was going to be a 2-year course. And then they decided to turn it into a 3-year course. There was a lovely lady there called Daphne Hurd, who was my voice teacher, who realised, I suppose she did realise that I was quite talented, and said that, I could go out, when I left, I could go out and play Cockney Boys for the rest of my life, but I was much better than that, and why didn't I work on my voice more? So I decided to work on my voice more. Daphne was in that thing with Penny Keith.
Yes, she was in To the Manor Born. She was also in a Doctor Who.
Was she really?
Image of the Fendal.
Oh, God.
In which she plays a yokel sort of white witch type.
Oh, really?
And has great fun with Tom Baker.
Oh,
yes.
Is it in Tom Baker? I probably saw that.
Yes.
But of course it's gone into the mists of time. She was lovely. They were all nice there. They were very nice. Brian Murphy came and directed us, and Larry Dan. Lots of the actors came and directed us in plays. He directed me in a thing called The Servant of Two Masters by Goldoni, which I'd never heard of. And when I read it, I thought, this man wrote for me, in 1555.
Wow.
It was just so what I did, what I could do and do well. And in fact, I've played it 3 times since, and I've adapted it, and it's been put on the stage as well. But it's the sort of thing I do, you do very well. It's lots of playing the centre of the stage and then improvising with the audience, improvising on the stage, and yet keeping the drive of the play. So Murph did that. Then while I was doing that, an agent came and saw me, Fraser and Dunlop, which were the top 5 London agents at the time, and wanted to sign me on, you see. And I said, well, I want to stay on for another year to improve my voice. So I did go to them when I left after my 3 years, which was very nice. So I suppose I must have had a bit of talent somewhere.
Yes.
And then I left there, did the Doctor Who, a couple of tellies, King of the River was another one. Then they asked me to play Cardinal Wolsey, a director called Michael Rudman, who was an American, married to Felicity Kendall for a while. They're still friends. I met them at Richard Briar's funeral a few years ago now, bless him. And he asked me to play Cardinal Wolsey, and I thought I was like a skinny rake. I mean, I was like 9.5 stone, really, and 5 foot, 9 foot. What is it? 5 foot 10, 9. And I thought, well, no, he said, I just don't want anybody to play the whole mind portrait. I wanted to play a character. So I did. That was rather nice. That's where I met Edmund Pegg. He was on that, playing the Duke of Norfolk. There's a rave from my mind.
Well, I had to drink with Ed here.
Yeah.
Probably about 18 months ago.
Yeah, lovely.
So we try and hook up when he comes to the UK.
It's his birthday this week.
Oh, is it?
Next week, yeah.
Oh.
He's on my Facebook, and I saw that he's coming up to his birthday.
Ted Pegg. I will drop him a line.
Yeah. And that was it. Then I did a lot of stage. Went into the West End as a singer with a thing called Way Out in Piccadilly at the Prince of Wales, which was nice because that was a year's work. And I had to understudy an actor called Glenn Melvin, who'd written a play as well. And after the first, Frank Howard was the star and Cilla Black, they were the 2 stars. And after we'd opened, Frankie lost his voice, which meant that Glenn had to go on, who was his understudy, for him. Only in the sketches, Frankie could work with a mic, but I had to go on as Glenn, you see, then, which was this mad stage manager. And I was so nervous. I mean, I was so nervous. I remember standing between the pass door and the one before you get on the stage, thinking, don't try to do anything. Just play the objective. Just decide what you've got to do. Go out, which is, a Stanislavskian thing. You go for what you want. What do I want? I want to clear that stage, get Frankie Howard off of it, so we can get on with the proper show. And that's it. I went out there and stopped the show. It was dreadful. I mean, they cheered and clapped on the feed lines. And when we came off, the chorus boys was going, oh, he'll murder you for that. It was dreadful. Cilla Black rushed up to me. She went, oh, Ginger, they laughed at you. They stood up for you. Oh, it was great, Chuck. You were wonderful. And I thought, oh, fuck. Jesus. And then all the young people in the show thought Frankie would go mad. And when his voice was better, I was asked to go down to see him. And the company manager, I thought, oh, that's it. They're going to sack me now for fucking about. I wasn't fucking about. I was playing my objective. I wanted him off, and I told him, get off! You know, and I think he was so shaken by someone trotting him like that. I was just playing my job. And then they said, would I be his second understudy?
Wow.
Which was nice, you know, and lovely. Stood me in good stead. And I said, well, do I get any more money? They said, no, you're getting £2 a week as an understudy. You don't get any more. That was the rate. I said, but that means I've got to come in every week rather than just once every other week. And they said, yeah, that's the job. Get on with it. So I did. But it was good because I nicked some of the stuff by Gorton and Simpson after that. There was a lovely sketch that Hancock did about Jack's Return Home. It was this man coming back from the war, which Frankie did there. So I stole that and used it when I was in rep and directing review and things, you see. So I did that for a year, and then during that I did something at the Royal Court. I did a bit in a film called Poor Cow.
Ken Loach.
Ken Loach, dear
Yeah.
Ken. Oh, lovely, yeah. And I made him laugh because we would. It was in the 60s, 65, 66,
I think
whenever it was.
Yeah, 66.
Something like that. I never know the years. I don't know years. I mean, I only know what I was doing. And this is absolutely true. I don't know the only year I know is 1969, because I had to sing We Are Here to Welcome You to Expo 69, and 1988, when I had to come out of a show because I got sciatica and I had to fill in all these forms. Otherwise, I just know whatever play or telly I was doing. And that is absolutely true. So, like I just said, I had no idea what year it was.
That's fine. Years can be looked up.
Exactly.
You don't
I
need that.
got a CV with that in somewhere,
Yeah.
and I do sometimes have to go to look at my CV and think, oh, that was 1968. Anyway, so I did that. And what was I going on about?
So Ken Loach.
Oh yeah, they asked me to go in and do a photographer, and there's a nice story there. I'll tell you this story because my friend Kate Williams, who was in my year at East 15, it was her first film. She'd got a part with Carol White. She was Carol White's mate, and I just got this one day when I was going to be a photographer in a strip club in Pimlico. So Kate and I met up in the morning to go to Pimlico together on the train because our call was like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or something in the morning. So we met at Ilford, got on the train, got off at Stratford, and were yakking because we hadn't seen each other for a week. Do you know what I mean? So we had lots to say. And we're just going to get on the Central line, and she went to me, oh, fuck, Ginge. What? I said, what? She said, I've left my case on there. And I said, what? She said, it's got all the clothes that I'm going to use in the film. I said, well, you get on the Central line. I'll get on this train coming in now. I'll see you at platform 18 on Liverpool Street. Dived onto the train, got off at Liverpool Street, which is the next station down, went to the Lost Property Office and said, I've left my case on the train. It was the train, so whatever time the train was. And they said, well, there has been a case just been handed in, actually, strangely enough. Right, so they opened it. And they said, what's in it? I said, well, it's things I'm going to wear in the film. Well, love, they opened this case, and of course out came bras and knickers, and because it was her and Carol White were strippers in a way on it, and they were trying to say, oh no, it isn't really mine, it's one of my friends, she'll be here in a minute, I'm going to meet her, and then suddenly in came Williams going, oh, Ginger. I said, that's all there, love. So then we got there, and that was it. And then Ken got the rushes back. We were there all day, and I really had to get to work that night to the Prince of Wales, you see. And I said, look, I've really got to go. This was about 6 o'clock. I've got to get there for the half, which was, we went up at 7:30, so that would have been 5 to 7. At 6 o'clock, I'm saying, I've got to go. I want to do a close-up of you. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then just before that, he got the rushes in from the previous day, and I went behind him to have a look, and he went, I said, oh, Ken. He went, what? I said, oh, God, I've fucked everything up for you, mate. He said, why? I said, it's colour. He went, yes. I said, but I've been acting in black and white all day. He called me a silly bastard. Still didn't let me go till about 6:45, so I was late when I walked in that stage door. He was like tapping on his watch, the company manager, where have you been? I said, well, it's terrible trains coming back from Chadwell Heath tonight. You know what it's like, Pete. Oh, God. I was on there, Vive la France, before they knew what had hit them.
But is working with Ken Loach, certainly now, I'm sure, the opposite of Vive la France? Is it quite...
God, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all improvised, and, you're there and it's all very real, whereas I'm out on... That night, I'm on the stage... screaming "Vive la France, vive l'amour," and all doing all that crap, you know what I mean, and dancing and prancing about. So it was completely different. But then you do that, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like when you're in rep, you're doing Hamlet in the rehearsing Hamlet during the day, and tonight you're doing you're performing in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Yeah.
You know, where, I mean, that was nice because having understudied Frankie Howard, I was in a company when they let me have my first starring role, which was being the Frankie Howard role in Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And that was my first ever big lead where you are the star and you've got to drive the show, which was very nice. That was Philip Headley. That was in Lincoln Theatre Royal, and I worked there with him and that particular company for, I think it was 3 years, 3.5. We all stayed together, and we're still family. We still see each other. It's really, I mean, I've spoke to Philip this week, and Mitchell and all that lot. We're all there. Brian Prothero, lovely, you know, people.
Yeah.
We're all our family, and we're still mates.
Well, you sort of said before I started recording that some of the cast of the Doctor Who, the Ark, you sort of kept in touch with.
Yes.
So.
I'm a good keeper in toucher. In the main, I'm known for keeping in touch with people. I'm very good at that. So with Brian and
Brian Wright
and Helpsby,
Eileen Helsby,
and there was the other guy,
Terry Baylor.
Yeah. So over the years we've seen each other on and off. Or we you know, crossed over, but I did keep in touch. You see, even though it was that long ago. So I do keep in touch.
And easier now, I guess, with the internet.
I suppose it is, yes, because I mean at the moment, if like the Theatre Royal Lincoln is now up for sale, which means, and there's a thing saying that it could be pulled down. Well, that was my home for, well, Lincoln. I stayed in Lincoln for 7 years because I had a daughter there while I was there, after a rather ribald music hall, I must confess. I'd already had 2 children. It was one of those things, I looked at my wife in the morning, I said, "Oh God, you're pregnant." She went, "What do you mean?" Because we'd had a bit of a do after I'd come home a bit drunk. I said, "You're pregnant." She said, "No, I can't be." I said, "You are." And she was. My little Susie, the following June, was 13th of June. So that was it. And I just knew looking at her in the morning. Then I got up and went to rehearsals, you know, as you do. So we stayed there for a while because then I worked a lot in the north. People saw me there and said, would I join their company? A man called Kenneth Parrott formed a company around me called Orbit, which was over in Lancaster, in the Lancaster University, and we would tour from there. And he said I could have whoever I wanted in that. In the meantime, I'd worked with various other actors that I liked, and I did War and Peace at Perth, and the girl playing Natasha was a really good leading lady who could put up with me. And I needed people that could put up with me, you see, because I was going to do it like The Servant of Two Masters, only it's called The Venetian Twins. I'm playing 2 troubled-dinos in that. So I needed people that would understand that that's what I do, and it's not a big ego. That's what is going to sell them the show, in fact, because I can do that. It doesn't worry me. So I got a nice company around me, which was lovely. Some friends and some other actors that I'd met, and 1 or 2 that Ken said, "Would you mind, having them?" So that was nice.
So you seem very happy-go-lucky in terms of as an actor and as a performer when you're you're not afraid of entertainment. But has there ever been a job where therefore it's been an uphill struggle and you've had to try and mine that for all it's worth?
Yes, I mean certain plays. I'm just trying to think. When I did the Chekhov with Mike Alfreds, who directed me in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum at Lincoln years earlier. And said we must do Chekhov together one day, Ginger, because it
was the Seagull.
Yes,
and I was going to ask about Mike Alfreds because I interviewed another actor for this called Philip Voss.
Oh, I know Philip Voss.
Marvellous actor.
Yes, we shared a friend
who actually credited and Philip had a reasonable career as a character actor.
Yes.
But then was playing leads for the Royal Shakespeare Company.
That's right.
And I said, so what happened? And he said, it was working with Mike Alfreds made me approach acting differently.
Yes.
And I wondered if that's been
well,
the case
Mike,
with you.
in a way, had worked at the Lincoln Company and had worked at East 15 and had worked with Philip Headley, who was very much the Joan Littlewood way of working, which is looking at what you want, playing your objective, doing the character, stuff like that. So Mike was an influence on me, but in a way we knew where we were going from day one. And it was when there was a point in Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum when the Pseudolus is going to be killed by the Roman general, I think. And because I played that for real, the Roman general just went insane. He said, "I can't do this. I can't. He looked so frightened and upset." And I said, "That's the job." and then we worked together a lot on that. And I also did another one for him, which was a Gogol called The Government Inspector, which was very, very different to the part I was playing in Funny Thing Happened. That was a really old Russian great man. I wore a lot of balloons in the rehearsal to do that, and it was outrageous. And Philip Sayer, God rest his soul, played the nervous schoolmaster. He got so nervous, he used to bite my fingernails, so we always went on stage together with him chewing my fingers. Which was and at his memorial at the Aldwych, they had this big picture of me and Phil with because he died, and chewing my nails, which is one of my favourite pictures. So that was Mike Alfred's. And then later on, years and years later, he asked me to do The Seagull, playing Pam Ferris's brother. I think it's Sorin.
Yes.
He was going to ask me to play the Doctor, but that time he thought I was already engaged in the birthday party, which I was doing.
And if I recall, the Doctor was Thane Bettany, who...
No, Thane Bettany was Shamrayev.
Ah, okay.
Who's Paul's father.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right. Yeah,
Paul
I have funny enough, I have the programme for that.
That's-
So
did you see it?
No, my sister went to see it.
Oh, I see.
And and whenever any of my family go to the theatre, I steal the programme.
Oh, you steal them. All right, I've got every programme of every play I've ever seen and been in.
I do that too.
Going right back to Guys and Dolls.
Wow.
With at the Coliseum with Joy Nichols and somebody.
My goodness.
I know. And the Crazy Gang in the
Well,
Victoria Palace. I know.
It's a valuable archive.
Is it? I don't know. My granddaughters can sort it out when I go, love. So, anyway, so that was lovely, and I really, really enjoyed that. That's where I had to really be disciplined. And, although I would fuck about in rehearsals, because we all would. I mean, Pam Ferris is a tart, we were brother and sister, and we would lark about and then get right down to it and have a really good, play it very real, And there was one point he wanted me to do something. I would go, and he went, I've noticed you've done that a couple of times. Why don't we work on it? I said, well, no, I'd be too conscious. That I don't like being conscious of anything that I'm doing. I like to just do it. Philip Headley wanted me to analyse what happens when I walk on stage. He said, I sit out there night after night, play after play, and you come on stage and there's a shift in the audience. They sort of like of anticipation or expectation. Just after you walked on, they wake up in a way. And I said, and he said, can you work on it for the next couple of plays? And I tried, and then I'd say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm just becoming too self-conscious. I just do what I do.
You have to let it happen.
Yeah. And in fact, that lost me a part in his West End show.
Oh.
Not for that, but he said, I was going to get a cast, and I can't get the cast now. And I can't have you in it, because I know that when you're sitting on that bandstand, the whole audience are going to be watching you. Even if you're doing nothing, it's whatever it is, you're focused. And Sally Miles said that to a director who nearly sacked me. He said, "God, he's going to play my MC," and she said, he stands down stage in the dark, and he's still the centre of attention. He's amazing. And she said, and this director, when I went to see, said, "Your friend Sally Miles is not a good friend." I said, "Why?" He said, "She says you stand down stage in the dark, and you're still the centre of attention doing nothing. You're going to play my MC in cabaret. I can't have you standing doing nothing." I said, "Don't be stupid. I hardly knew this director. Don't be stupid. Of course I wouldn't stand doing nothing." So that was that. I played that twice now. I want to be the only actor to play it 3 times, but fucking Wayne Sleep got in the way. Oh. I've never liked him since we used to do variety together. He used to do a wonderful show called Olga Corbett. Wayne, he would come on with it in 2 parts. When Olga Corbett had just done the Olympics, and he'd come on and do this. Olga, it was very, very funny indeed. Nice boy. There we are. So where was I up to?
Well, we haven't even got to television stardom.
Oh, for God, no. Yeah. Oh, that was lucky. That was really lucky. Now, that is a story. That is a good story, that. I mean, that when I get round to that part of my life story, I've written my life story from when I'm fostered to when I'm 8, or until I go in the RAF. It's called No Expectations. Which is true, and I've done it. I'm just trying to find a fucking publisher now. It's very funny, very dramatic, very moving, very horny. About when I'm shagging all these boys and girls. I mean, really.
Because I'm the custodian of the legacies of an actor called Bernard Kay.
Oh, no, but I think he's one of those I dressed. Was he ever at the RSC?
He was.
I've dressed him.
In the late 50s, early 60s?
Yes, that's
mid-60s.
Yes, because I was a dresser there while I was a student.
Oh, well,
because I had to earn more money, you see,
of course.
with kids pouring out. I mean, like, no tomorrow. So I would dress at the RSC for 2 or 3 years. I dressed them all.
Ah.
And they were all wonderful when they met me later on. And I said, "Oh, I knew Donald Sindon. Oh, I knew you do well. I knew you'd do well. We were having lunch at ATV at the time. It was lovely. They were so nice, really nice. Glenda and all that lot were there then, you know. Rig. It was wonderful, wonderful time. Peter Hall's company, that was.
Yeah.
The Wars of the Roses. Fantastic. Anyway, back to my television career.
Yeah.
My television career. You're very good. This is Sybil Thorndike. You're very good. You're very, very good. I heard every word. You're going to have a wonderful career. That was like a knighthood from this Dame Sybil Thorndike.
Yeah.
That was at the Sheffield Crucible. When that first opened, I was in the very... I had a period of opening theatres everywhere I went. Like the Orbit Company, the Sheffield Crucible, the Plymouth Royal and all that. I kept opening theatres that particular couple of years. Anyway, I was out of work. I'd come to London to seek my fortune, having been in rep forever, and wanted to become a TV star or become a star. I'd set myself, that was my objective. I want to become a star. I moved into a little flat in Covent Garden in Shelton Street to stay for 2 weeks because I was doing a couple of plays on Sam Wanamaker's Bankside Globe. Not the one it is now, but he did another one further up. Then it was just mainly a road until we opened. The traffic was still going through while we were rehearsing. Then they closed the road off. And I did this Shoemaker's Holiday and Man for All Seasons, two very completely different parts. One was Richard Rich, the nasty Richard Rich. And the other one was Firk, which was a musical version of Man for All Seasons, which was a sort of Ginger Halstead type part, you know what I mean? Anyway, I did that and then couldn't get a work at all. I auditioned for every fucking show going in the West End. Get down to the last two often, then it went to somebody else. It's just the way it goes. I didn't get too despondent, but I then got a job in a panto called Malice Through the Looking Glass, I dubbed it, with Michael Dennison and Gracie
Dulcie Gray.
Dulcie Gray, because you know they were known as Michael Drivison and Gracie Dull. That was their evil names to us young actors in those days. And they were lovely. She was sweet and he was lovely. I mean, the story's there. That's another book just on its own. Anyway, I went down there to play the Hare and Tiger Lily with the woman who was Toby Robertson's mother directing it, and she'd done it for her. Anyway, I'm deviating. Anyway, I did this show, and I thought I was going to get money for 12 shows a week. As it was, I didn't realise it was a commercial contract, and the money was for 12 shows a week, but it wasn't any overtime. I thought it was a contract for 8, so I was half my wages down what I was expecting, you see. And it wasn't much anyway. And I was living in London, I had to send money back to Joan and my 3 kids at that time. And I was paying, I think, a minimum rent of £3 in Shelton Street, in this tiny room. But it was friends living there, in fact, Caroline Eves and whatever. Anyway, I did that, and then I desperately needed the money and was still wanting to stay in London to become a star. And so I was down Stratford doing a bit of variety nights and working for Joan as a typist, Joan Littlewood, and Philip was down there by then, Headley. And then they said they were going to do Sweeney Todd. And Joan said, I'd love to have you in it, but I can't. I'm having all my old actors like Murphy and all the old tarts down there. I can only put you in the watch, and quite frankly, Ginger, if I put you in the watch, because I'm known as Ginger in the theatre, quite frankly, Ginger, if you were in the watch, you'd destroy it, you know, because you are what you are, you know, you just grab focus by doing fuck all. It's that problem, you know, that one has, which is a problem. So but will you deliver the posters? So I said yes. So I went to Jerry Raffles and he said, you can deliver the posters, you can sing in the bar, and we'll give you £30. So I was singing in the bar of a night, delivering the posters all during the day, and then I got, I think, £30 for that and my dole. This was like Maundy Thursday. Posted it back to Joan in cash, because I didn't have a bank account that time, and I didn't like to register it because that was 3 and 6 down the Swanee that could have provided a breakfast for all my kids. You know what I mean? It was that money was that tight. So after the holiday, I ring home, or Joan rings me because we didn't have a phone. She'd have to come over to the phone box facing the road in Lincoln High Street, and the money hadn't arrived. It was just, and I said, well, look, we'll wait till tomorrow. Tuesday arrived, and it hadn't arrived. And I said, right, that's it. I've got to sign on tomorrow. I should come home and pack eggs. Fuck it, you know, it's not meant for me now. Got to give up. Arseholes to it. Okay, off we go. So that was Tuesday night. We have a bit of a drink to say goodbye. Everyone's saying, oh, don't look. I said, look, I've been down here now for 3 months. I worked a bit. I can't do this. It's not fair. Joan's up there. She needs money to help her back because she'd hurt her back. I've got 3 kids, you know. I can't do this. It's not for Sam Kelly. Was, oh, Ginger, no, you're going to be a star. You know you are a star. You are. And there's Brian, Caroline Eaves, Jane Bryan. They all come round. We had this party and I said goodbye to them. In the morning, I'm going to sign on at 10:30 in Chadwick Street, which is the actors' signing on place, and because I'm living in Covent Garden. The phone rings. Maureen Risco from ATV, she was the casting director. She'd seen me play McCann in the birthday party, which I fought not to play because I dressed that at the RSC with Brewster Mason, who was built like 10-storey block of flats. There's me, little skinny Ginger Halstead, quite whoopsie-ish, but not when I'm acting, you know what I mean? And I said no, and I was going to be foisted onto a guest director, who was Job Stewart, who had known me when I was in Nottingham playing Cardinal Wolsey. So I said, look, to the director, does he really want... He said, I think... So I said, let me speak to him. And he said, well, I don't know whether I should. I said, oh, stop being fucking... I'm a professional. I was only about 12 in what is that? Let me speak. And Job said, yes, I'd really like you to do it. So I did that. Maureen saw it. I didn't know who she was. She said, I've been to the... I mean, this is what she said to me in the bar. I thought she was just an ordinary mum of Shimon Sheffer. I've been to the theatre many times. I have never been so scared of anybody than I was of you when you came onto that stage. Every entrance, I clenched my buttocks with fear. I said, what are you talking about? I said, I was just doing an ordinary job. You know, I'm just coming on, and I was a bit Irish, you know, I do an Irish accent. But that was it. She said, no, you were really extraordinary. You were so frightening. I said, but I didn't think I was being frightening. She said, no, it's all right. She said, anyway, if you come to London, I said, well, I'm hoping to come to London sometime soon to become a star. She said, oh, that'd be nice. Get in touch with me. I said, who are you? She said, I'm Maureen Risco. I've just cast Emmerdale Farm. And Fred Pine, who played the old farmer in Emmerdale Farm, she'd cast that. And Fred was in the play. He played Petey, which I played years later. And so she'd come to see Petey and then said to me, get in touch. So anyway, cut to forward about a year or so. And there I am broke. And the phone rings. It's Maureen Risco saying, hello, love. I said, oh, hello, Maureen. I'd been in touch with her while I'd been down there, but there was no... She said, listen, I know you've played all these leads all over the country, but there's just a part come in. It's only 6 lines. It's not much, but it's on the staff. If you like to come down and do it, it's yours. I said, how much? She said, £53. I went, oh, that's with rehearsals and fee. I said, I've just lost £52.10 in the post. I said, oh, she said, it's only like a glorified walk-on, but there are lions. I said, I'd walk on my fucking hands for 52 quid. She said, don't swear on the fucking phone, you get me the sack. So I said, well, do I have to come and see you today? She said, no. It's not worth it. Just come down on, I think it was the second episode 69. Come down for the read-through on Friday, and you'll be called on Sunday, and for the... filming on the Wednesday. So I goes down there and they like what I did. Linda Bellingham, God rest her lovely soul, was one of my nurses, and the other one was Judy Buxton, and they were really, really lovely and made me feel very welcome. I got 3 laughs at the read-through on 6 lines, which I thought was pretty good. And the thing, as I delivered all these posters, I'd sprained my ankle a bit. You know, my ankle was really hurting. So I thought, when I get down there, because it's General Hospital, they'll be able to cure my ankle. So, what a prat. I mean, what a prat. So I went down there and I did it. And then suddenly, when we went on the floor on the Wednesday for the camera and the dress rehearsal, the floor manager came over and he said, they're going mad up in the box. I went, oh no. He said, yeah. I said, no, but I'll be all right later. He said, no, they think you're wonderful. And I thought, oh no, I'm so bad. I really am so bad. The floor manager, they're asking him to give me encouragement. Then Veronica Hurst, who played the lady surgeon in it, she came over and said, I've just seen you on the monitor. You come over wonderfully. I thought, oh fuck, they're bribing the actors to give me literally, I was that insecure about what I was doing. And I thought, no, come on. And then the director, called Dorothy, not Vernon, but Don, I can't remember her name now, She came up to me just before I was being touched up for makeup, because as I was a guest nobody, I was touched up first, you see. And she said, we've liked what you've done. I hope it all goes well tonight. We like very much what you've done. I thought, oh, fucking hell. Because she was a woman who wouldn't say that, you know what I mean? She wouldn't say that. So I thought, I went round the back lot at L Street, and they'd just done something with Shakespeare. So there was a model of a big sort of working model of the Shakespeare's Globe, not as big as it is now with Sam's thing, but it was that. So I walked around that and thought, no, come on. If you do it, you do it. If you don't get it, they don't like you. Just play your objective, go on and do it, and that's it. Don't try to impress. You can't audition, which I can't. Dreadful audition. Never hardly ever got a job from an audition in my life. Can't do it. And so I went on there, did it, was cleared, got changed there, and waited till the rest of the episode was filmed, and then we repaired to the bar, and nobody said anything. I thought, I had my little half a bitter, because that's all I could afford in those days. No money. No money at all. Nothing. I'd had to borrow the fare down there, really. Anyway, there's a little huddle going on between the editor, the screenwriter, the current director, the next director in, and there was all this huddle going on. Victor Menzies was the new producer. He'd only taken over a couple of weeks earlier. And they suddenly called me over and said, hello, lad, we like very much what you've done here. We're thinking of writing you in. We can't do anything at the moment because obviously we're very heavily storyline for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll give it maybe 4 to 6 episodes when we film those. Are you available to come back? And I went, is the Pope fucking Catholic? And it's been quoted a lot since then, that phrase. Is the Pope Catholic? Not that they don't use the fucking. And I said yes. And they said, all right, we'll be in touch with your agent and, let you know soon. It said maybe 3 or 4 weeks, whenever. So that was it. I went back to the bar and Veronica asked me, what they say? I said, she said they were talking about it from the first read-through, that they might have you in it. And it was a porter. There'd never been a porter on the telly. There had been no bright, vivid ginger-haired actors on the telly at that point. We're talking 1971 to whatever year it was, you see. So then they wrote me in and I stayed for 3.5 years, which was lovely. And then I got off at Leicester Square because I was living round the corner in Shelton Street, Covent Garden. And I got to the top of the stairs and the lady on the ticket office said, how did it go? She was a black lady. That's my black accent. I said, they've asked me back. Oh, I knew you'd be good. And I ran round the corner into Shelton Street and I got my key. I thought, fuck it. I'm not putting my key in the door. I'm just going to make sure someone comes down and We were on the 3rd floor, which is where we sat. The ground floor was a burnt out shop. The 2nd floor was just my bedroom and Caroline Evesy's bedroom. On the top floor, Brian Prothero slept in the bathroom and all that, and Jane Bryce slept on the cushion. And then our living room and kitchen was up on the very top floor. You can pass it one of these days when you pass it. Number 9 Shelton Street. It's all been done up now. Anyway, so I rang the bell and then I said, I'm back. They went, oh, how'd you get on? I said, I'm not coming in. They said, why have they sacked you? I said, no, they've asked me back. And they all went cheering. They all run down the stairs and let me in. And we went upstairs and they'd already bought bottles of wine, knowing I would be good. So we sat and had a wonderful party. And that was it. And what happened the next day? Now, this you wouldn't believe. This you could not write if you wanted to. I gets up because I'm on the bottom floor, apart from the bummed out, whatever. The bell rings. I goes down there. Postman at the door. I said, does Mr. Ross live here? Which is my real name. So I said, yes, that's me. He said, oh, right. Did you send a letter recently with money in it? And I said, yes, last week. He said, how much was it? I said, £52, 10 shillings, or whatever it was. And he went, oh, right, here it is.
My goodness.
I mean, that is without a word of a lie. And I'm a Gemini, and what I'd done, I lived 460 the High Street, Lincoln, LN1, and also 9 Shelton Street, London, WC2. I addressed the envelope to Mrs. Ross, 460 the High Street, London, WC2.
Oh.
2 halves of both my address.
How funny.
So in the letter, they obviously I'd put my address on there as you do. I learnt to write a letter at E15 school, didn't I? Do a proper letter.
But not an envelope.
Not an envelope, obviously. No envelopes done. So that was it. And I stayed there for 3 years, had a wonderful time, met some wonderful actors and lovely people. And Bernard Archer came back into it at one point, who was lovely and said, it's lovely to see you and how well you've done. And there was something about you even then. And I said, you
nice.
taught me something which I've learned ever since that first episode that I ever did of Z-Cars. I said, you always said, sit down when they stop. And I said, that stood me in very good stead over the year, which it did. As soon as they say cut or stop, sit. Because you never know how long you've been out there, although the back's still fucked. But that's the actor's back. So that was it. And then I stayed there for 3 years and then went back to Stratford, really, to be, to go back there and do stuff for the company there. Joan had left by then and Philip was running it, and then Claire Venables, because that's always been my home. Then I went to Hornchurch, which is my other local theatre, and did another sort of like 30 or 40 plays there, and then 30 or 40 plays in Stratford, and then schlepped about on tour.
So having tasted television success and the regular money of television, interesting, but you didn't particularly covet that as a medium. You prefer the stage.
I prefer whatever I'm doing. You see, I mean, my film career has been very negligible. I've done small parts in big films and big parts in little films, you know what I mean? There's a recent one, I played the lead. It's only a 3-minute film, but I'm quite good in that, very dramatic. Rather upsetting. With this old geezer. But other than that, I've just been in films for mates or whatever. But I love film. I do love, I see a small part in Poor Cow. I played Ben Gunn for Ken Russell's film of Treasure Island. But I think that was only for the telly. I don't think it ever made it to the proper screen because it really was not very good. I was the best thing in it.
What went wrong?
I say that. Well, the fact that he made Long Jane Silver, which was his current wife, who was lovely, nice actress, but she played it like Marilyn Monroe. So you've got Long John Silver, who is a driving force, played by a sort of, oh, hello, Ben, how are you? And it just didn't work. That was one thing that was wrong with it. It really was, I just went out there and ripped it apart. We had wonderful arguments. I adored him. Wonderful man. We fought like cat and dog, which is very good. I do love fighting with directors. He said to me, I told you to fuck off at the read-through. It's really bad, wasn't it?
Not if you get away with it.
I know, because I'd been there. It was an open audition, and I didn't realise it. I mean, I hadn't done an open audition since about 1965 for Camelot to be in Mordred or something in that for a tour, and I hadn't gotten. Suddenly, I get there and I thought, "Fuck, this is an open audition." There were people there I knew because I'd been about a bit by then, and lots of young guys and girls. And then when I gets in there, he's got. I think there was about 30 of us all in a semicircle, and he says, right, I'm looking for certain faces. If I point to you, stay. If I don't, then please go when I've got to the end. Well, I was on a bend, so as he was pointing, he went like that, and I should have stepped forward, and I didn't, and he went. I said, are you pointing to me? He said, yes, you're supposed to step forward. I said, well, I'm not to blow, am I? I said, I'm on a bend, I'm not quite sure. You're on, it could have been him or him. He went, well, step forward. So he went, then he picked out about 5 or 6 guys out of this 30. They all left, and he said, right, now, you've all got a script. And I said, no, I haven't got a script. He said, why? I said, nobody's given me a fucking script. I didn't know there was supposed to be a script. So he said, oh, go. I said, well, someone brought a script in. I said, well, I'm not going to do it now. I've got to read it first. I'm not just going to fucking read it here. I said, I'm sorry. He said, well, you can either do it or not. I said, well, you can fuck off. I said, all right, go and read it and come back in about 10 minutes. So I read it and I thought, oh, yes, I can do this. Of course, I looked at the script, the book, the night before. I just read the Ben Gunn bits. So I thought, oh, yeah, anyway, in the variety nights, I've just got to do this. Now, in the variety nights at Stratford East, I do old man called Sebastian St. Just, you see. He's a dirty old fucker. He wears a mac, and he goes round in a cap, and he's really rather naughty. And he goes, this is my foyer act, and I go up to men and women and go, hello, darling, how are you? All right, sweetheart. Here, guess what's in my hand? You can give me a kiss. Go on. And they go, no, darling, go on, have a guess what's in my hand. Go on, Toby, guess what's in my hand, and you can give me a kiss. Go on, have a guess, go on.
A 50p coin.
That's close enough. And then I would grab them and kiss them, whoever they were. If it was a friend, I would say, then you can suck my cock. But I would do that very quietly. Tell me what's in my hand and you can suck my cock. No, you can't say that in the foyer. Atrocious. So anyway, I read the scene, you see, and there's lots of Chinese people watching. By that time, they've come in to see these people reading the Ben Gunn scene. People can't come and gone, and I goes in there, and a little girl is reading Jim Hawkins. So I read the scene, and I'd read it very well. I mean, I knew I'd read it very well, and I thought, oh, let's go for it, fuck it, you know what I mean? Chance it. So I just goes, here, Jim, guess what's in my hand? You can give me a kiss. Well, everybody just was sitting stunned. No, there was like a terrible hush, fellow, and the little girl went, I said, go on, have a guess, then please say anything. So she, I don't know. I said, go on, guess what's in my hand? And you give me it. I'm spreading it out like wicked. Meantime, they're all going, what the fuck's he doing? Anyway, eventually she guessed a mouse. So I threw myself upon her and said, that's close enough. So that was it.
Got you the part.
Got me the part, love. Went down there and I had a very good time. Stayed with my friend Miss Jane Bryars, who's now waiting for her leg to arrive. Bless her heart. She lost her leg recently. Poor little soul. She's an actress. Richard Bryars' sister, God rest him. And so I stayed with her for a week because it was near Pinewood. She lives over Chiswick, so I could be picked up in the morning. And had a very nice time. It was really nice, and that's where I got that. One of my pirates. Gave me that.
It's a Doctor Who magazine. So you were given the Doctor Who magazine
by one of the pirates.
The Archive of the Ark with one of the
yes,
because Doctor Who fans get
everywhere. I can't remember his name. That was so long ago. God knows what year that was. It was a long time ago. But I did like Ken Russell very much because it was on the moment. You know what I mean? On the moment. And when he wanted me to, because they were flipping up these pancakes, and of course Ben Gunn's all about, I want a bit of cheese and pancake. And I said, excuse me, you're getting her and him to do this. I should be flipping a pancake. And he went, why? I said, because I've been going on about how I want a cheese pancake in the script. Did you read the script? And he went, oh yes. All right, we'll do one for you now. And then he said, I tell you what would be a good idea. He said, when you flip up your pancake, you catch it on your face and fall back into that ditch. I said, you can fuck yourself. I said, don't you know what happened to Catherine Hepburn? And he went, oh, yes. All right, we'll just do the flip. So they bring me yet another pancake and all that goes on. And then he came over and went, what happened to Catherine Hepburn? I said, when she was doing Death in Venice with Rossano Brazzi, she had to fall into the canal. Well, of course, you don't fall once, do you, in a film? You fall God knows how many times. And it fucked up her eyes, going into that filthy canal,
water, yeah.
You see. So I was no way going to go into this dirty, filthy, bloody... It was awful. A ditch in Pinewood. I mean, maybe a canal in Venice, but not a ditch in Pinewood.
With a hot pancake on your face.
Yeah, well, exactly, darling. No way. But he bore that. I think it's still in the set. Yeah. And then he kept doing take after take because poor little Jim kept looking at the camera as he ran towards me, and I then had to jump down off this table. Well, I thought, I can't do this anymore. 9 times I jumped off that table. And he kept saying, cut, and he kept saying to the boy, don't look at the camera, don't look at the... And I said, look, you don't need this. You can cut away from this. You know, just as he runs, cut from there to when I leap in front of him. You know, I cannot do this anymore. My legs are now killing me. So we did that, and he listened to me, you see. So he was quite open to anything, really. Yeah. You know, I think if he trusted you. And it was a nice cast. So there, but it was wrong to make Long Jane Silver, Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
Long Jane Silver.
Bizarre.
No, bizarre.
Well,
I sang in it as well.
I feel like I've taken up far too much of your time.
Well, no, I'm all right, darling. I'll have it forever, sweetheart.
Oh, well, bless you.
You can edit most of that out.
Well, I don't want to. That's the thing.
It's a book on its own, there, love.
So tell me about some of your favourite jobs and actors and people that you've worked with.
Oh, God.
Let you lead.
Well, I suppose I started with them when they were young. One of my, well, obviously Anne Mitchell, because we were at drama school together, and then we played The Wizard of Oz together, and she became quite a lardy, and then disappeared a bit, and now she was back in EastEnders, and she was in Widows, and then she had faded a bit from Widows, and then she said she's out again, and then she went into EastEnders recently, and she's just left that. So I know her and her kids, because we've grown up together, you know, and we're still mates. I spoke to her only 2 weeks ago, in fact. Alison Steadman's another one. She came into the company at Lincoln, because Philip would go to E15 and then get all the good actors to come into our company at Lincoln. Then, you know, anyone he thought was really talented would come into the company at Lincoln, which was a regular company. And Ali came up to do. She was still a student, and she was going to be in The Pride of Miss Jean Brodie, playing the character that strips off and is done by Lloyd in it. I forget the name. Jenny, I think.
Yes, I know the one.
Jenny? Yeah. And she was in that. And her first scene was with me as Gordon Lowther. I was the Jane Bryars was Jane Brodie in that, and I was Gordon Lowther, the art teacher or something. And her first scene was with me. Well, we did this scene, and Philip wasn't directing it. It was an actor called a director called Richard Werrett, who was in Australia and was one of the old E15 farts, and he was directing it. I did the scene with Ali, was cleared, and I went straight to the office and said to Philip, that fucking girl is amazing. We've got to have her in the company when she leaves. He said, Ginger, why do you think she's here? And joining her was another actor called Howard Lloyd-Lewis, who then took over the Lincoln Theatre Royal and then ran Manchester for a while, and then had a terrible heart attack during the pantomime that I was in. That was really hard. That was really hard. He was wonderful. Frankie Howard, of course. Scylla was great. Loved Scylla. We met years later. She was down when I was opening the Theatre Royal Plymouth. I was opening the drum, which is downstairs, and they were having a big variety sort of week with Jean Pitney was there one night, and then there was and Scylla was the second night. But Princess Margaret opened it. We weren't allowed to go to that. It was only the hoi polloi of Plymouth. And I was doing Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, 2 heads and 3 arms. Playing in that. And anyway, Scylla arrives, and I'm downstairs, and I hear her do it, and I thought, that's on you. Oh, on the opening night, they got all the sound wrong, and Princess Margaret was seen to be putting her fingers in her ears when Jean Pitney was singing, God rest his soul. He was quite nice. We met in the green room as well. Anyway, so the next day, Scylla's come down, and she's doing her own band call, more or less. She'd normally have a high-voiced singer to do it for her, but she was doing it herself. And so I thought, she didn't know I was there. So I went up to the main house, and just as she was singing Alfie, and when she left the Prince of Wales show, she said, I'm going to do Alfie just for you tonight. I'll obviously give it out, but at the end, I shall look at you in the wings, because it's for you, Ginger. Because we were great mates by then. We were both getting on very well. And Bobby, God rest them both. Fucking hell. Jesus God. Anyway, so she's on there doing, I went, excuse me, will you stop that fucking round? I'm trying to learn my lines. She went, oh, Ginger, Bobby, it's Ginger. And Bobby went from the store, yeah, I can see it's Ginger Scylla, I'm not blind. Anyway, we went out that night. I went to see her show. She introduced me in the audience, said my friend Ginger's in the house. And I don't know what happened, but my son Jack's Ginger, and there's... And then we went out, had a wonderful evening. She was asked for an autograph all the time. And then I was, because I'd done General... I don't know. Anyway, oh yes, I had done General Hospital by then. And we were in this cafe, and then this woman came in and asked me for my autograph. You see, they'd always asked her first and then me. But this woman came in to me, and she went, can I have your autograph? So I said, oh yes, of course, yeah, why not? And I said, would you like hers? She went, who's she? Well, we howled. We just howled. So that was nice. And then I met her again when I was... Oh, yes, I met her before that at ATV. So she was... And Frankie was always lovely. He wrote to me when I was doing Funny Thing Happened on the way to the Forum and said, I know you're going to be fabulous.
That's nice.
I know, it was nice. I did write him and say, look, I never get on to play you. I didn't want to overplay him. But, and he did say to me one night in the wings, he said, I would like to go off and give you a chance because you could become a big star. I said, no, please, please, please don't. He said, you are without doubt one of the funniest actors I've ever worked with. And that was like a knighthood.
Yeah.
That was a knighthood. You know, I thought, Frankie Howard says I'm funny. I'm funny. I don't have to worry about being funny anymore. I'm funny. You know, it was like Jane Littlewood when she told me I was brilliant. You think, that is another knighthood, because she doesn't say that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
You
I
have to earn it,
advised
yeah.
a VAT inspector under enormous stress, including scream at her and Jerry about opening the theatre too early before I could collect my money when the night VAT come in. And I was so angry, I was going to close the theatre. Anyway, so that's then who else do I... Oh, God, I've worked with so many people over the years. I suppose they're Cilla and Frankie are the most famous, and they were young, and we were all young together. Annie Mitchell.
And what's the best work you've done then personally that you look back?
When I look back,
satisfaction.
Oh, I don't really get very satisfied.
No.
No. I've been good in lots of things. I've been shit in many things.
Oh, when were you shit?
You should have seen me in the Italian Straw Hat. I was in that, and I went to the director. I said, Philip, this is Philip Headley, who's my best friend. Can you do me a favour? He went, what? I said, will you go out into the street, find the first man you come with? He went, yes. I said, ask him to come in and play Bonbon. He'd play it much better than I could do it. No, Ginger, you're fine. I'm not. I said, I'm shit. And then I was at Ipswich, and director there, I was doing The Rivals and Restoration. And I said to the director, I'm really not very good in this. He said, what do you mean? I said, no, I'm acting. I'm not very good. And I said, the thing is, I can't act. He said, you're wonderful. I said, no, I'm not. I'm really very bad. You must realise that I'm very, very bad. He said, no, I don't realise you're very bad. You're very, very good. But I knew I was bad. And I have been bad in many things. Unless, you know, I've got to be really good, and then I'm very good, you know.
Well, and, you know, to still be in the profession.
Yes, and still hoping to get work. You know, not on the stage. I go up for commercials now because I am this next month. I'm going to be 80 years old.
My goodness, don't worry.
And when I go for, a casting director called me a fucking liar recently when I told her I had to go about my. It was something to do with losing your wife and 2 daughters in a car crash, and I was a film director. That's right. Forget what it was for now. It was never made, whatever it was. And when it was over, I said, I'd done this, I think it's therapeutic, because in the last 5 years, I've lost my wife and 2 of my daughters.
Oh, so
and she
sorry.
went, oh dear. I said, yes. She said, oh. I said, and by the way, I am... She said, I don't know how I got right. By the way, I'm 79 3/4, which I was then. I'm now 79 11/12. So she said, you're a fucking liar. I said, no, I'm not. And I said, here's my bus pass. I've had it for years. And because I look about, 60, 65, and there's no parts, you see, because you can't play the grandfathers. You've got to be white-haired and wizened. I'm too old now to play the best friend. The young husbands went a long time ago. The occasional puff, if I'm lucky. But I haven't done one of those since The Sweeney. You see, I was a puff in that with John and Dennis. So overall, they're just... they don't write. It's like they say they don't write for women of a certain age. They don't write for men. There's just no parts for men of a certain... Apart from commercials. And for commercials, I think my face is a bit too strong for that. They want someone a bit blander. Really. I'm quite logical about the whole thing. It doesn't worry me. I've got my own house. Thank you, General Hospital. That paid for that. Thank you, Brian Murphy. You see, because he told me that when I was doing General Hospital. He went, oi, what are you doing? I said, well... Yeah, he said, you just bought us all a round of drinks. I said, yeah, why not? I said, I'm earning. He said, yes, but, Ginger, I did this when I was in America with a lot of lovely war. I was earning very good money. This was before Ginger Mildred. And youth. And he said, don't do it. He said, don't just throw it about. Put some money by it. It won't last forever. I said, oh, no, it won't last forever. He said, well, think of the time when it's going to not last. Put some money down. put it in some property. So I saved up £1,000 over the next few months or whatever, and then bought a house in Chadwell Heath, which was near my family, so I could bring them all down from Lincoln and live near my mum and my sisters and her mum and dad, Joan's mum and dad, and her brothers. And so that got us back. But that was very good advice, really, because I was like a madman. I'd never had any fucking money all my life. You know, we'd been brought up in a poverty-stricken East End family. We'd never had money. I mean, I was just I learnt to shoplift when I was about 8, and all that's all in No Expectations. Aunt Nell Martin. How's your arsehole, Ginger? Red blush? Still red blush. This is when I was with a nice new girlfriend walking down the East End. Hello, Johnny, how's your arsehole? Red plush. She used to let me play truant in her house if I would run for a fence, and then she taught me to shoplift and things like that. Lovely woman. Sid was her husband. He was a safecracker. Rubbish. Always in the fucking nick. No, he was. Sid Martin.
Well, not much of a safecracker.
No, he was rubbish.
Safe knocker.
Safe, yes, exactly. Yeah, so there we are. That was me.
Well, look,
that was good advice.
Thank you for agreeing to meet me and for talking obviously about 2 weeks' work as a monoid voice in Doctor Who. But obviously, this podcast is about much more than that.
Yes,
and
I'm glad it is.
so.
Yeah.
Have you watched the Doctor Who? And
oh yes, because one of my mates, John Raymond, who was a friend of my daughter's, God rest their souls, and they joined amateur company. They both became actors at a certain point. Susie did as a child, then she gave it up, but they retained amateur status and sometimes did plays at the Queen's. And Lisa did a career on stage. She did a couple of tiny films. She was very beautiful, that one. The other one was pert and sparky, but she was quite stunning. My eldest daughter, God rest her. But then she went. It was whatever came first, the child or the career. As it turned out, thank God the child came first, and then she had another 2, and then she did a bit as she got older. But she ran her own business of IT, and she was a computer programmer and very brainy and bright till she got fucking cancer. Poor cow. Yes, that was the worst day of my life. That one, when she died, I'd already lost my wife and the other one, and then when she went, you can't be doing with that. And then Sam Kelly went, and then Linda, and it was just like, and then Scylla. It was just like, everyone who knows me is dying. You better be careful, sweetheart.
I will be. Well, Linda partook in this process.
Of course, she would have done, because she was in Doctor Who, wasn't she?
Yeah, and she'd been poorly, and we'd lined it up, and then she got poorly, and then when she got a bit better, we sorted it out again, and I went to her place, and she gave me a good 3 hours of her time.
Lovely. Well, she couldn't shut up. We were both Gemini, getting us together. We were dreadful in General Hospital. Because she stayed for my first year, more or less. She stayed for about 7 months. And then her and Judy decidedly, because they were young actors, they are young and whatever, free, and wanted to go out and do other things. So, we had great fun. She was lovely. And we remained friends for quite a while afterwards, on and off, when we met each other and stuff. So I got a photo of her. Oh, she was doing a play. It was funny because she was doing a play at Halstead, and I knew everybody in it. There was the whole cast I'd worked with at some point, including Alison Steadman, Brian Prothero, Linda, and so we went to see it and took my Lisa. So that was that. No, she was lovely, Linda, really nice lady. Lots of nice people came into General Hospital, and there was an unwritten rule: we'd always make sure they didn't buy no teas or treat us to things during the first week. We bought them tea and cakes in, not their lunch, but tea breaks and coffee breaks. We paid for them. So, because we didn't know how long they'd been out of work or what they had. There was one wonderful man. He was, I can't remember his name. He was in there for a long time, and they were awful about paying you. Lou Gray, God bless him. But because we were regular, we'd get our money. But they would always hold you up for about 3 or 4 weeks. If you were doing like a 6-week stint. And this man went in, and he hadn't been paid, and he's still schlepping out to Elstree. And he went out to the office. Excuse me, I've got to be paid. He said, I've got no money. I've got a wife, 2 children, and an Alfa Romeo to keep. I think I can't remember his name. He was a lovely man. He's dead now, as they all are. And I thought it was just one of the most wonderful nights, because I was in the office doing something. I think I was after a photo of Gene Kelly. That's right. Oh, that's who I met. Oh, fuck yeah, Gene Kelly. Oh. Leave that out. That's a name, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a name. That's my most famous name. Yeah. I'd had a row with my producer on General Hospital. And because, for whatever reason, and I was on the back lot filming, then I had to come back to my dressing room, get changed for another day, and then go back. And as I came down the corridor, Gene Kelly was there, although he was hanging about. No one dared to speak to him. I mean, you know, it was like mega star, you see, mega star. And so we'd all seen him, and I'd been in to watch him rehearse a bit, you know, whenever you could, I'd always go and watch the stars like John Wayne and Julie Andrews nip into the Studio C where they would go. We were Studio A and B, and the big Studio C was the big stage, and they'd get an audience in there. Anyway, I've come off effing and blinding down the dressing room corridor, and there's this fella standing in front of his door, and I thought, oh God, it could be. That's awful, how dare I behave like this? That man could be doing a big drama and trying to get into character and all that. So I went up to him, I'm sorry, mate, but, you know, I'm sorry about the language, but, oh, fuck me, you're Gene Kelly. And he went, oh, hi. I said, hello. I said, oh, I'm terribly sorry. I said, oh, and I was so, like, shocked and so enraged anyway. Duncan Preston said to me, I'm not speaking to you anymore, the way you've been behaving to your producer. Your director. So we talked and all that, and then I had to go back, and then it was a very hot summer. I think it might have been somewhere 75, 76, somewhere there in Elstree, and so everyone had their doors open. And when I came back, he had his door open. He went, oh, hello, how did it go? I said, oh, fine. So we started to chat. You know, it was really a good old chat. We had a long chat about Judy Garland and the MGM days and what he was doing over here and what I was doing. I said, I'm just doing a soap and all that. Anyway, then I was called for the afternoon, whatever, back to the studio. So I said, I've got to go now. He said, well, it's been lovely talking to you. Thanks very much. I said, no. I said, can you do me a favour? He said, yes, what? I said, if I get a photo, would you sign it to Ginger from Gene Kelly for me? I said, I won't disturb you anymore, I promise. I put it in an envelope, I'll slide it under your door. It went, oh, yeah, sure, okay, why not? Yeah, but you really want my autograph? But you're a star. I said, no, darling, I'm shit. You are a star. You are a star. And he was so nice. Anyway, and that's when I heard this thing with whatever. So I got the envelope, put the photo in it, put it under the door. That night, we're cleared, and we're cleared about 8:30, I think. We used to record from 7:30 to 8:30, half-hour show in an hour. So I'm coming down the corridor with Carmen Monroe, that dirty bitch, who I loved. Nearly had an affair with her. She's a beautiful girl. And she was giving me a lift back to Hammersmith or wherever I was, in the car. Anyway, I'd already seen the photo from Gene anyway that was there. Gene, I've dropped Gene. See that? And so, anyway, I'd seen it, and we're leaving. I said, come on, let's get out of this fucking shit. I've had enough of this boxing fucking hell. Come on, Karma, let's go. As I'd come out of the dressing room, got my bag on my shoulder, and suddenly this door opened, and it was Gene Kelly. He went, oh, hi, Red. Thought it was you. At which I grabbed her left breast. Nearly, I said, Gene Kelly called me Red. Gene Kelly called me Red! And then we decked her car with flowers from the rose bushes in Elstree. And then every time we stopped, I put my head out of the window because everyone knew who we were at that particular time. And I said, Gene Kelly called me Red, drive on! Wonderful. Wonderful. But I suppose that is the most famous person I've ever met. And he was just lovely. Really, really nice. Yeah. Nice man. Anyway.
This has been an absolute delight. I ask you...
I bet you say that to all the men.
I ask you two final questions.
Yes.
The first one is, neither of us benefit financially from this.
No.
So we would like...
I get a lunch.
You do get a lunch.
Yes.
You do get a lunch.
Yes.
But we like a charity to be receive from the listeners. So what's your charity of choice?
The charity of choice is a small charity because my first daughter had pulmonary hypertension, which meant one side of her heart swelled up. She was a very, very brave woman. She got this when she was in her 30s. She survived until she was 42 and never let it get her down. She travelled all over the world on her own to visit mates and stuff, and it's called the Pulmonary Hypertension Society. But no, they get very little money because very few people have it, you see, and it needs a lot of research. So everything I do, I give to that. Yeah.
Well, I will find the website and I will do a link so they'll know where to donate.
And it's in the name of Susie Ross, if her name's still up there. I think it is because I've got to do a note something because recently I thought, well, I've got to do that for various reasons. And the other question?
It's a terrible question, but I settled it with the very first one. This podcast was convened initially to celebrate 50 years of Doctor Who. It's now going to be 53 this year.
Is it really?
So what is your message? You've done so much in your career that it sometimes embarrasses me to then speak to people about Doctor Who. But what is your message to the Doctor Who fans out there?
Carry on doing it. Carry on Doctor Who. Because I love it. I mean, I do enjoy it, really. And I mean, it does come up and down. And recently, I think it's got a bit too complicated recently. Do you think?
I do.
Yes, it has got a bit too complicated. And I'm not sure about Peter Capaldi as such. But I'm not sure whether it's him or the writing or whatever. But there's something not quite gelling. And I have watched it. I mean, all the episodes up until the last one, I've watched it avidly. And I will watch it when it comes back and stuff. But that's it. Just carry on doing it, but do it better. Oh, that's what someone used to say to me. That's very nice, dear. Very good. Now do it better. I think that was Howard Gurney. Who was one of Joan's actors when I was a young man. Very good, darling. Now do it better.
Well, I don't think we could have done this better, so we'll go and have some lunch. But
that's
for now,
very nice, darling.
and officially, John Halstead, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bless you.
That was fun.
That was great.
It's very good. I mean,
I hope that was okay for you.
Things that I hadn't thought about for years, really.
Oh, good. Well, and it's funny, isn't it, how things suddenly come back to you that...
Yes. I mean, remembering that I'd met Gene Kelly.
Yes.
That is extraordinary.
Ah, what a joy that was, and I can only apologise to John for leaving this so late to release. I don't know why I hung on to it, but I think it's because I thought it was rather a special one, and I wanted to release it at an appropriate juncture or with appropriate fanfare. And John and I were going to meet up a couple of times after this, and it didn't happen. We did have a lovely lunch, though, where he told me lots of saucy stories. Anyway, I think his charity is PHA UK, the Pulmonary Hypertension, he said society, but I can only find the association, which is phauk.org. So if you're listening to this out in the wild and you would like to donate in the name of Susie Ross for John and for his daughter who died very young, that would be lovely. phauk.org. Since we recorded that, John has done some more telly. He was in a couple of episodes of the hard-hitting drama Top Boy in 2023, so still got it. And I wish I'd seen John again since, because, as I say, although we're in a little bit of touch, we haven't hooked up, and as you can tell, his company is infectious and good fun, and he makes it very, very easy. So my thanks to John and to Nick Pegg for actually tipping me off that John might be willing to do this and pointing me in the right direction. So thanks to Nick, thanks to John, and thanks to everyone for listening. Hope you're all well. Please support these releases on Patreon if you can at patreon.com/Toby Haydoke. Or you can make donations at kofi.com/Toby Haydoke, and you can like and subscribe and put thumbs up and good reviews everywhere. That would really help.